I don't like horror. Ironic considering I played DBD for 5 years of my life now, but it's still true. I'm a complete coward. But I love zombie games. Sometimes. Over the course of my life, I've played a good amount of zombie games, and in recent years, consumed a lot of zombie media. And what do I think of zombie games now? They suck. Not really, but I think they suck at handling the key part of zombie games. The zombie. In most games, normal, non-mutated zombies do little to no damage to you. Source games like Left 4 Dead and Half-Life mishandle them the most due to them being one of the first enemies you face, and while prominent through the games, are mostly cannon fodder. Dear viewer, do tell me, when was the last time you played either of these games and died to the common, unmutated human infected? But some games make them a decent threat. Resident Evil 1-3, Dying Light, DayZ, Project Zomboid, Mega Man 11... What the fuck? But there's one game that I personally crown the best zombie game of all time. And that game is No More Room in Hell. No More Room in Hell was developed by the team of the same name. It was released on Halloween of 2011, and it was originally a source mod for Half-Life 2, but 2 years later it made its own official release as a standalone game. It's crazy to think that this game, this super polished zombie game that has like a completely different build entirely, was just a casual Half-Life 2 mod. It also had a sequel, but it was likely not made by the same people, and it wasn't made in the same engine, and it turned out to be awful. The first thing you notice when the game loads is the background. You can choose between 3 images as of me recording this video. They, like all of the art in the game, take a more comic book-esque style, like how the Walking Dead comics used to look. Another thing you notice, or rather hear, is the title screen music called No One Lives Forever. The song in itself sounds depressing and melancholic. The background of it sounds like a cassette player left on loop, abandoned in perhaps a fray. But we have to remember we're playing a video game here, and we can't stare at the title screen forever. We have to press find or create a server and delve into the nightmare. No More Room in Hell plays like exactly how you would expect a survival co-op game to play. WSD to move, M1 to shoot, and etc, etc. But there are more factors to this than just the basic functions. Firstly, we need to cover the infected, considering you'll see them about 99% of the time. There are no special infected. Sure, there are subtypes, but they all act the same to the normal walkers. The only thing that are different is their models. Your common infected will usually just shamble around. They can swing at you and grab at you. Runners are, well, runners. They'll run at you and either grab you or deal damage or bleed. They're a little easier to take down, but can hinder you massively considering the amount of damage they can do. Crawlers, you guessed it, crawl. They grab under your leg and bite you. They can be extremely dangerous, but can also go down in one well-aimed swing. Those 3 types have 2 subtypes. One being the National Guard, remnants of the military now reduced to the infected plaguing the world. They take a bit more damage, but killing them has a chance of dropping ammo or even a handgun. And while not a subtype, I want to cover these 2, the Zombie Children. The Zombie Children were doused in controversy due to the games at the time not depicting children being killed or dying at the time. They are fast, but can't grab onto or infect you. They, like crawlers, go out within a swing or a bullet. When you're grabbed, RNG comes into play. You could take damage, you could bleed, or worst case scenario, you get infected.
Hey look, I'm gonna be honest with you, I got infected.
There are things you can do when infected. Pills are the most common option. They reset the infection process, giving you around 3 more minutes to survive and find more pills, or gene therapy. Gene therapy cures and makes you immune to the virus. Presumably in the lore, this does something to your own genetics to make you immune. Due to that, they are extremely rare and should be saved for the worst case scenario. Not the time, holy shit. Yep.
Yeah.
Morphine.
Hey, do you have any?
If you can't find pills or gene therapy and you aren't close enough to victory, you can turn your own gun on yourself. You'll know when you're infected when yellowish veins appear around the edge of your screen. Then your vision blurs slightly and ambience grows louder and louder. Originally, you were supposed to grow paler as the infection worsened, but this never became a feature due to Source being pretty dumb. If you don't do the previously mentioned solutions to the infection, after about 3 minutes, you die instantly and reanimate. This is the second subtype, survivor zombies. These zombies are always runners. This has a lore reason, but we'll get to the lore later. They don't turn into the basic models. All 8 survivors have zombie models, adding more fear and dread as you are forced to look upon and kill or succumb to the dead, glazed over eyes of your once alive friend. You already know what time it is. It's time for a pro gamer tip. Whenever a player normally dies, they ragdoll like any other Source game. But players that reanimate or are infected have a special dying animation where they fall to their knees and flop onto the floor. If you see that animation, be prepared to start swinging at your dead friend because that motherfucker's gonna get back up. You can say, watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. You got infected off of that hit.
Die.
I did not have permission to die!
Hey, bro.
The maps all have different objectives and are randomized with each playthrough. Sometimes you'll have to take a different path or reach the final objective using an entirely different route. Speaking of final objectives, all objective maps end with you being evacuated, either by a random third party or the National Guard. You'll have a limited time to reach them before they leave or get overrun and you fail. I'll talk about the maps later on, not really out of gameplay because I'm less educated in that department, but I will talk about the references and secrets, and that usually includes the maps. Weapons in No More Room in Hell are split directly down the middle. Melee and firearms. Melee weapons will be your bread and butter throughout the game. Some melee weapons are smaller, like the kitchen knife. It's fast and takes no stamina to use, but it'll take down a zombie in about 4 to 5 hits, which is practically nothing. While heavier weapons, like the pickaxe, kill even military zombies in about 1 hit, but absolutely drain your stamina due to its size. Melee weapons are more optimal because they're 1, easier to find, and 2, don't require ammo, unlike guns. The guns in No More Room in Hell can make or break an entire run. While they are powerful in some cases, not managing ammo correctly can be the literal death of you, as it's painfully rare to find ammo, especially for the type of gun that you have. Speaking of which, there's a wide variety of guns in the game. Pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, SMGs, rifles, and of course their second cousin, the bow.
Expected, it was silent.
Oh!
Whoa!
Did I just double kill?
Yep, you did. Then she penetrates.
Guns take up more inventory space than most melees, but for the trade-off that it can save your life in the right situation. Another thing to note is stamina. As previously mentioned, swinging your weapon and pushing zombies will drain stamina. The amount of stamina you have can be measured by the amount of items you have in your inventory. That's why it's a giant wheel that fills up gradually as you pick up more items. You can tell when you're running out of stamina during a fight when you start to hear a heartbeat in your ear. The most sleazeball way to play is to hit a zombie with your melee, push, melee, and then if they try to claw at you, fall back. But of course you move slowly when you fall back, so it can, you know, it's chance time essentially. Kind of like Cry of Fear with its dodge mechanic. Ah! Holy shit!
What?
The zombie went flying! There are also lethal throwables you can use, a frag grenade, a Molotov, and TNT. Fun fact, setting a zombie on fire will sometimes cause them to run at you, and yes, they can set you on fire too. Fighting the dead will give you ton of bumps and scratches. Believe me, I've been hit by long arm zombies like 80 times. I'm gonna start losing my fucking mind. That's where the healing comes in. It's not super clear when you need to heal or not, at least not if you don't pay attention. There is no HUD, no health bar. You have to use context clues. If your screen is black and white and there are no veins, you're low on health and need a medkit. If the COD if the COD jam filter appears on your screen, you're bleeding and you need bandages or, again, a medkit. And as already stated, the veins mean infection. Therefore, you need pills, gene therapy, or Kurt Cobain therapy. I think that wraps up the gameplay I can describe here. I recommend watching the video by Aiden Makes Things. He describes it way better than I can, and he covers the game way more better in terms of gameplay. I was saving the lore for the middle to end of this video because you never really learn about it in the game, but rather on the website, nomoreroominhell.com. I recommend checking it out as it has a lot of concept art and cool little pieces of info related to the game, along with the wiki. You can just find that by typing in No More Room in Hell wiki. There you go. That's it. With that being said, let's delve into the lore and how society crumbled in No More Room in Hell. October 19th, 2008. A virus dubbed 732ZH was discovered by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Agency. It was seemingly dormant in millions upon billions of people. 80 to 90% of Americans alone came back positive with said virus. David Maid, the head of virology research, found that it had similar physical structure to encephalitis lethargica, a brain disease that had a massive plague in the early 1900s that was dubbed the sleeping sickness. The disease swelled the brain and put people into comas, with 732ZH also putting majority of people into comas. Maid ends the document by saying it's unlikely to be harmful, but could cause an outbreak and needs to be studied more. The second document, dated January 22nd, 2009, is a redacted mess, but is written by Stephen Hoffman, Deputy Chief of Virology, who proposes a budget increase and focus research on the virus. And in the next document, it confirms the canon event for this entire story. In the third document, dated January 25th, 3 days later, William D. Frank, Senior Deputy Director, informs Hoffman that the request for more funding has been denied due to no real threat being found in the virus. He adds that he sees no reason as to why Maid's team wants a larger budget along with Hoffman's. He then disrespects Hoffman even more by saying most of the funding is going to fucking seasonal flu preparedness. What a guy, right? The fourth document is not as important, but it is dated May of 2009. It's from Burton Farms and is to James Webster. Livestock have been quarantined due to having the virus and aren't selling. That means that most people's food are being infected. And this is confirmed in the fifth document, dated August 23rd. It covers how the livestock issue has increased and become a national health risk. After all, this is what people eat. If they eat infected livestock, they're eating and gaining the virus. The sixth covers how more and more people are going into comas, getting more symptoms like double vision, neck stiffness, muscle spasms, photophobia, strange movements and tremors, deteriorating physical and mental responses, drowsiness and lethargy, or even comas. The seventh isn't a medical document, but a newspaper article from Thursday, April 8th, 2010. Obama signs order for pandemic containment. Other articles border the page. More importantly, Germany faces border closing and mysterious shooting leaves police troubled. These two explain how the virus is affecting the world. The virus is spreading like wildfire. It's getting worse and worse for the entire world, and it only gets worse in the final document. The final document is, surprisingly, not an American document, but rather an interception made in Australia on a Chinese document. The top part has a lot of info that is kind of a sludge to read, but the bottom has the real meat and potatoes of it all, describing a case where a patient with the virus became lucid and suddenly became uncontrollably violent. The patient tackled one of the nurses and gnawed at her face, eating her nose entirely. This is it. This is the first zombified case, the patient zero of this entire story. Those are where the documents end. But there's more lore hinted at in the game itself, mainly how the military is barely operating and how there's only one safe spot in the entire world: Iceland. The virus has taken over so much of the world that the only safe space in the entire planet is Iceland. That's presumably where you're taken when rescued, because where else would you be taken if the entire world is destroyed and overrun by the dead? That's where the lore entirely ends. The game itself really doesn't have lore, as it's like Team Fortress 2 or Dead by Daylight. The gameplay doesn't have lore, it doesn't have a real conclusion. You die or you get escorted. But I promise to cover most of the references that are included in the game. So, I'll get to it. As previously mentioned, this game has a fucking ton of references in its characters and its maps, hell, in even some of the voice sets.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
You might have noticed from the background footage that Patrick Bateman is in this game. This is not a mod, this is an actual character in the game named, ironically, Bateman. Obviously a very on-the-nose reference to American Psycho. It's embarrassing to be a fan of that movie. Jesus Christ, I hate the internet. Like, what the fuck is this? No more Skibbity and Ohio Riz? I'm done. Video canceled. Some of the other characters are also references to characters from movies and shows. Fucking The Big Lebowski, 28 Days Later, and Black Dynamite. It's amazing how much they thought about this. It seems like this entire game is just a love letter. On most maps, you can find double doors that say, "Don't open, dead inside." Or if you're a big brain Reddit goal enthusiast, "Don't dead open inside." I hate that shit so much. A reference to The Walking Dead, as that was premiered 1 year prior to No More Room in Hell's first release. Ironically, it's been confirmed by the lead dev, Max, that all zombie media exists in the world of No More Room in Hell. Meaning that all the games, movies, TV shows, and books, all of them exist in this world. I like thinking that some dude watched The Walking Dead and decided to go around writing "Don't open, dead inside" on thousands of doors when the outbreak started. Just for the funny, just for the vine. With No More Room in Hell being a co-op game, it's obviously going to have a community. And while it's there, it's painfully small. As of this video being written, the player count is at little less than 500 now, compared to its all-time peak 11 years ago being 10,900. That's almost depressing. Most of the servers are completely dead, and only a good handful even have at least 2 players. To wrap everything up, I wholeheartedly recommend playing this game. A wonderful zombie game that makes zombies in general a real threat and shows how a real zombie apocalypse would feel. The absolute agony of it all, the depressing facts of it. And the best part, it's completely free and able to be played on any computer. It's a source game. You could play it on your phone likely. Probably not considering of how it plays, but it could. Don't play the sequel though. It absolutely sucks. Anyways, I've been Joda. I hope you enjoyed my schizophrenic rambling about an over 13-year-old game, and have an awesome night.